He said, life really does begin at 40. Up till then, you are just doing research.
You are not running a race against anybody else but yourself. Like, there is no timeline.
Turning 40, I feel so empowered. I feel so excited. I feel like this is it.
If you don't want to say it to yourself in a mirror, write it down on a piece of paper. Stick that sucker up on your wall and look at it.
My husband, bless him, he is as sweet and wonderful as they come, but he just doesn't get it.
The online world, we hear the bad of it, but there's also so much good. We can connect with each other.
I would say reach out to your community, reach out to the people that you know, reach out to the people you love, reach out to the people you follow, the people you admire.
Do you take a step back and let your daughter kind of just figure out, or do you step in as a parent?
It's like you want them to be able to have the independence, because if you just sweep in and solve the problems, what does that teach them?
It's almost like perimenopause takes over your body. It's almost like possessed.
We need an exorcism right now. What's happening?
Today's guest built a brand out of rediscovering herself and gave the rest of us permission to do the same. Chrissi Harrison is the host of the hit podcast Found at 40, where she speaks with women who've taken bold leaps into their most authentic lives in midlife and beyond. From walking away from high-powered careers to finding unexpected love or building passion-fueled businesses, Chrissi's conversations are smart, vulnerable, and deeply validating. She's also sharing her own evolution, one that proves it's never too late to stop settling and start living out loud. So if you've ever thought, is this all there is? Or what if I made a big change? This one's for you. So welcome to the Iconic Midlife, Chrissi. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh, so excited. We've also just done your show, so I feel like I'm getting the best 2 hours with you. Really getting to know you.
Double feature, Chrissi Roxy.
Totally. Our names even go together,
I know. Sounds great. We might be onto something.
Totally. So I absolutely love what you're doing. You have an amazing podcast called Found at 40, which the title just so rings true. I mean, I feel like so many of us have found ourselves at 40 or are approaching 40, and things are changing and we're figuring things out. So what was it about turning 40 or entering this stage of midlife that made you say, okay, we need to do something. I need to start a show. We need to talk about this.
Well, it's a little bit of a long story, but for years I've had this unresolved thought in my life of, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? I've had a little bit of a different journey where, I got married really young. I got married when I was barely 20. I joke that I was a child bride, completely willing, still stand behind my decision. But I got married very young. When we started having kids, my husband and I, we made the decision that I was going to be staying home for the most part. I mean, I worked part-time, but I really did not lean into a career space. And so at this point of my life, my kids are getting a little bit older. There's more bandwidth to be thinking about, what do I want to be doing? And so I had this unsettled feeling. It was almost like I would call it the spinning wheel of death, like that little circular, when your computer's frozen. I felt like that was in my head. And so realizing I truly adore being a wife and a mother, but that is not, those are my roles. That is not all that I am. And so really I was exhausting myself trying to think about okay, well then what do I want to do? I feel like in a lot of ways I was arriving so late to maybe a career party where it's okay, I don't want to start, some entry level position, or, what am I qualified to do? And, I wanted to find something that was worth my time, worth my energy, something that would really light me up. And so one night I was listening to a podcast, and it was talking about kind of the women's journey through life. And the podcaster, she brought up a quote that was from Carl Jung, the psychotherapist, and he said, life really does begin at 40. Up till then, you are just doing research. And for me, that was a lightning bolt moment, light bulb, all the things fired off in my head, that it gave words to the thoughts that had kind of been existing in my head for a while. It's this is just the beginning. I want to talk about it. And so that was the beginning of this baby idea of, let's start a podcast. Let's talk about it. I mean, I have no experience in broadcast or communications or anything like that, but I was this is something. It finally was this is it. This is what I want to talk about. And I know, speaking from other women, all of my friends, my sister, like the people in my lives, they're all wondering the same thing. And they've all had different paths, whether it's been a career type path, whether, whatever it has been. It's not like everybody has, been a stay-at-home parent or whatever. They're all wondering these things of, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? It's a huge space of reevaluation.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that you sat with yourself and like questioned, like what is it that's going to fulfill me? Like what is it in my life that I need, or that I want, And I think
Hmm.
that that is such a valid question to ask yourself, because I think especially women going through this stage of life or approaching 40 and or midlife, it's one of those things where we kind of maybe there's a feeling of being unsettled that kind of bubbles up a little bit,
Yeah.
right? That maybe wasn't there before because we're so in the thick of things of like, either climbing the corporate ladder or raising children or being in a relationship or, dealing with things in our families and, there's just, or traveling, whatever it is. I think that there is like that little unsettling that starts to happen right around 40. Would you agree with that?
For sure. Absolutely. Well, like you said, I feel like 20s, 30s, we are running. We are in a dead sprint in a lot of ways. We are trying to build our lives. And so by the time we get to our late 30s, at least for me in my experience, there was a slowing down. And it's like, okay, when I'm not sprinting, I can actually think. I can listen to what's going on in my head and I can realize, okay, it's time to reevaluate. It's time to start planning for this next phase. And so, yes, it's unsettling. And yes, it's kind of hard and scary because we get used to the grind. We get used to running at full speed. And so when we're not running at full speed, it almost feels a little bit scary to think, wait, something's wrong, danger, danger. But also, oh, let's listen to ourselves. What do we really want at this stage?
Yes, 100%. And, you and I have both been married 20 years. It's
Mhm.
20 years and obviously every marriage has its ups and downs. But I'm also wondering too, like for being in midlife and kind of crossing that 40 threshold, how did that affect your marriage? Because, in midlife, we deal with like health changes. We feel differently in our bodies. We've got a lot of symptoms that maybe start to pop up and our partners are there, but it's like maybe they're not experiencing the same things, it's a different journey for them. So I want to know how after being married for 20 years and kind of going into this whole midlife process, like how it has it changed your marriage at all? Has it affected it? Like are things, different? Like what does that look like?
Well, I think first, I mean, we've been together for so long. I feel like we grew up together and, we've really our lives really formed together at an early age. But I feel like at this stage, there are some diverging things that are happening. I mean, with any of the perimenopause things, my husband, bless him, he is as sweet and wonderful as they come, but like he just doesn't get it. Like he does not understand where I'm just like, oh, I wasn't able to sleep. I tossed and turned and tossed and turned. Whereas literally he falls asleep within 10
Oh,
seconds of his head hitting the pillow. And I'm like, must be
yeah.
nice. Must be
Uh-huh.
nice. And meanwhile, I am like furious. And, like the hot flashes where it's like all of a sudden somebody has turned up the thermostat. It feels like in my body, like I've got lava under my skin. What's happening? He can't relate to that. I mean, he can be like, oh, I'm sorry, that's really hard. But I'm like, you don't even get it.
Totally. It's like, don't even talk
I
to me.
know. No, that's what I need to call my friends. It's like again, I love my husband. He's just wonderful, but like he doesn't get it and he's not gonna get it. I think he's understanding cognitively like, oh, if I'm a little bit more moody or irritable or snippy, like we don't need to worry as much. Like this is me sometimes. It's not him. It's a little hard though. I think he's trying to roll with it as much as he can, but there are times where I'm like, I'm sorry, I feel crazy in my own head. It's not anything you've done.
Yes.
It's all in here.
Totally. I have this like joke with some friends. I'm like, he breathed too loud. It's like the
Yes.
breathe.
Or it's like, you don't get this.
Yes. Or like chewing too loud, or just one little thing can like set me off, and it's like just the irritability, of like, this whole
Mhm.
time. And it's just, it's in a way, I actually kind of feel bad for him because he doesn't really know what to do. He's kind of walked in the room and he can see maybe I'm like a little more moody or what have you. And I will literally see him walking back, like leaving the room, or maybe he was going to say something to me and he's like, I'll
He's
just,
like, "I'm just gonna pretend I never
totally,
came."
totally. He's like, oh, I guess I won't say that. Oh, I guess I'll just walk out of this room right now.
It's like, "You just pretend that you never
Yes,
even walked in. Just
yes. Totally.
read the room, honey. Read the room.
Totally.
Now is not the time."
Totally. It's so funny. I'm like, oh my gosh, that poor guy. So I do feel bad for our partners some of the time, because they probably are like, okay, I married, a girl that I knew, for however long. And, she was this way.
Mhm.
And then these sort of like things start happening to our bodies, where it's like the irritability pops up, the mood swings, we
The
feel
brain fog.
the brain fog. Oh my God, the brain fog is the worst.
You feel like, what is happening? Is this early onset dementia? What is happening with
Yes.
me? Where it's like, and my kids even, they're just like, I repeat myself, or I ask them, did I ask you this yet? And they're like, yes, mom, you know, and it's really frustrating because you feel like, okay, I know who I am and I know what my cognitive abilities are. And then when you start having this brain fog and you start forgetting things, or you start, little things get dropped, you beat yourself up. You think like, oh my gosh, what, I am falling apart. And then, I mean, I don't know if you ever follow Leanne Morgan or listen to her comedy.
Yeah, I love her. Oh, she's the best.
I love what she says about like perimenopause, menopause. And she's just like, in it last 10 years. And the funniest things that she says about her husband, like, I love her. And I love that she's bringing such humor to this unavoidable life stage that, I mean, when you think of it, it's a privilege that we live long enough to experience these things. But girlfriend, it is rough.
It's rough. It's rough. And perimenopause is not for, and menopause is not for the faint of heart. Like it is a huge, I mean, it's like your life is just turned upside down. It's not. And
Hmm.
again, like we were talking on your show, like there's no preparation for it. Like it just happens. Like you're just thrust into it, and whether you like it or not,
Hmm.
you're kind of forced to deal with it. But it's almost like perimenopause takes over your body. Like it's almost like possessed, like you're it's like, what is happening? What?
Like, we need an exorcism right
Yes.
now. What's happening?
Yes. But I do love those voices like Leanne Morgan and, Naomi Watts and Halle Berry and people in the entertainment space that are really talking about it, and it's like, why can't we
Hmm.
should poke fun of, of it and make jokes and like, laugh, be able to laugh about because we're all going through it and aging is a privilege. Not everybody gets it.
Exactly. And it's like, we laugh so we don't cry.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. It's true.
yes, I will laugh about this hot flash and me looking at you for breathing so loud and thinking, what
Totally.
is wrong with you?
Totally. And I do think there is some validity in saying that men do go through their own kind of menopause at this midlife stage too. I mean, they too are starting to see their bodies change and, kind of
Hmm.
figuring out like what, and I mean, a lot of them do end up probably having those midlife crises like at this time because they too don't really they don't men are different in that way. I feel like there's some men that are good about talking about things, sure,
Hmm.
100%. But I think, men when they get together, like I don't see my husband when he gets together with his friends that they're talking about like menopause and health things and
Yeah.
it's just different. They do like an activity together.
They play golf together, or, and then, so they're with their friends on the golf course for 4, 5, 6 hours. And then they come home, you ask them, honey, how's so and so? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you just spent 6 hours together. What are you talking about? But yeah, I feel like, my husband, he's just a couple years older than me, but it's like, okay, little things like his eyes are changing. Like he had to get glasses. That was a big one for him. Like, he used to be able to just eat garbage. Like, he ate like a raccoon, like, just could eat and eat and eat. And, nothing would happen. And then finally, when his metabolism slowed down a little bit, I mean, he still looks great, but it's like, there is a change that has happened. He cannot eat like a crazy person anymore. And it's just like, Yep. This is
Yeah,
my life, man.
right. See what we've been
Welcome
dealing
to the
with? Yeah.
club.
It's true. It's true. It's like, it's and it is there's something nice about if you're kind of going through it at the same time together. I mean, there's pros and cons, I guess. Like maybe you guys are both moody at the same time or
Mhm.
what have you, but like there is something nice about like commiserating a little bit and just being each other's support, because it's probably, it's hard for everybody, I feel like. The kids too, because kids see, mom acting different or, dad going through some changes. And, for them, I think, it's different. It can be hard for them too. Like, do you think your kids kind of notice different things about you now that you're sort of in midlife, like, or after 40?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like they poke fun at me all the time when it's like, if I am repeating myself or, whatever I'm saying that ages me, they just like crack up. I mean, I feel like both of our husbands are in for a treat in a couple years. My daughter's 8, your daughter's 11. Once they get the hormones going, and then we've got our perimenopause and our menopause hormones, all of that, it's like they're going to be in the eye of the storm. And like, send your condolences to these men
Totally.
because it's going to be a wild situation. But yeah, my kids for sure, they just kind of like laugh and are like, "Oh, mom," But they haven't been too rough.
Oh my gosh, no, it's so funny because you're right. Like these crazy hormonal periods of our times are going to overlap each other with our daughters. Like they're going to be getting their periods and like, menstruating, and we're going to be like perimenopausing and menopausing. Like it's going to be wild, like wild in our houses.
Yes, I know it is going to be wild. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I think the best thing we can do, and I don't know if this is really happening, but like prepping the men so they know what to expect, that it's like, there's what to expect when you're expecting. There's, now there's, thank goodness there's books and there's a lot more out there about perimenopause and menopause, but like these men, I mean, I love my husband and I don't want him to be constantly bewildered with what is happening with my wife. What is because it's like he's known me forever, and yeah, there's going to be changes, and I definitely don't want to drive a wedge in our relationship. And it's like, when it comes to hormones or when it's coming to whatever things are changing, you know if there's a way that I can say like, "Hey honey, like I know it's going to be a little bit of a wild ride. We're going to ride this out together. I'm going to do the things I can to make this, first it's like comfortable for me, but I'm going to try not to lash out and make you feel like you're living in the nut house."
That's the hardest part too. It's like, swear it's not the nut house, but it is right now. It's like,
It is now, not
right.
forever, just
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 right
right
now.
now. So
Just
just
right
hang in there. It's going to be okay.
now. So crossing the age of 40, have you felt that life is just getting better? Or is it changing in another way? Like, was turning 40 hard for you? Or how has that been kind of entering this decade?
For me, it has been wonderful. I have loved it. I feel like I have been ready to feel the confidence and just knowing who I am. I think of when I turned 20 and, there's all the fun things of the youth. And I was a newlywed. Who gets married at 20? I do. 30 being in the thick of it. That's when it's like, okay, I had two of my children. I was going to have my daughter a little bit later, being in the thick of it and just feeling so overwhelmed. But feeling 40, turning 40, I feel so empowered. I feel so excited. I feel like this is it. This is a place where I can actually slow down to breathe and to think, what do I want? How do I want to map out this second half of my life? I am loving it. I mean, bless my mother. I know she had a really hard time when she turned 40. To her, 40 was like, a swear word. Like she couldn't even acknowledge that she was 40. She didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want anyone to ask her about it. But for me, I'm just like, I feel, there's that SNL character who was, I think it was Molly Shannon, where she was 50 and it's like, and I'm 50. Like that's
Totally.
how I feel. Like I can stretch and she's doing toe touches. That's how I feel at 40. Like I am thrilled by 40 because I feel like I know things and my body has not completely, I'm not having the physical issues of, my knees and my hips and everything. I wake up and generally I feel okay. Sometimes I've got aches and pains. There are things that it's like, dang it, I can't move the way I did. I was a gymnast for a long time. I did gymnastics and cheer all growing up. And it's like, oh, I could do the flips. I could do the cool things. Am I able to do those at this point in my life? Absolutely not. It would lead to a hospital visit for sure. But 40 is amazing. 40 is the start. 40 is seriously where it's at.
40 is great. I mean, I turned 50 this year and 40 actually wasn't hard. I would say that 50 was a little bit harder for me to turn just because I kind of think about my mortality a little bit, and I think like, am I doing all the things that I want to do right now? But I had to kind of give myself grace and be like, you will do them. Like you just have to keep on the path. So at this
Mhm.
stage in life, do you ever feel lost? And if you do, like what brings you back? Like what gets you back on the path?
Oh, yeah. I feel like at this point, it's less than before. I feel like there was a lot of when I was in my 20s where I felt like, what am I doing other than, trying to raise my kids? And, I didn't feel like I had a lot of personal, like, sense of self, at that time beyond, "Oh, I am wife, I am mother." And so at this point in time, I feel like there is such a wealth of information. There are so many wonderful creators, experts, authors, it's way out into the entertainment sphere of like, this is what the 40s and beyond looks like, and it can be amazing. I feel like if I would have gone through this stage of life, maybe in my mother's generation, maybe if I was doing this 30 years ago and there was still such a stigma, or, oh, we don't talk about menopause, we don't talk about perimenopause, I think I would have felt a lot more lost. But at this point in time, I feel this beautiful connection, not just with the women that I know personally, but now extending with this podcast. Like, it is so cool the people that you're able to connect with on the online sphere. You're able to get to know these amazing women that you would have never come across otherwise and people that you connect with. So I feel like, yeah, definitely less lost than maybe I expected to feel. So I'm very grateful for that.
The online world, like, we hear the bad of it, but there's also so much good. It's like we can connect with
Hmm.
each other and like really talk about these issues. And like you're saying, our moms did not have this. Like, I feel so bad for that generation because they
Hmm.
weren't able to talk about all these things so freely and get these solutions. I mean, for us, finding a solution to a problem is like literally like just going onto your phone,
Click, click,
like
click.
and you're done and
Hmm.
you're like, wow, that's so amazing. Or connecting over social media or doing podcasts or
Hmm.
whatever it is. And it's like we are so deeply lucky for that because the embarrassment and the shame I think is slowly sort of drifting away. I mean, hello, I'm in
Hmm.
perimenopause, it is what it is. Like, and I don't think there should be any guilt or shame or like weird feelings about that?
And if somebody does make you feel that way, if somebody makes you feel like, oh my gosh, why are you talking about that? Like, that's a them problem. That's something, because guess what? The tides have turned. And really, like, why are we keeping something that is so natural, so normal? And yes, totally sucks at times, but like it or not, if you are a female, and you're in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, you're going through this. There is no avoiding it. So, like, stop your yapping. Like, this is, you get on board.
100%. It's interesting. I've been getting a lot of messages and DMs from my community and from my audience about women feeling stuck. They're feeling stuck. They're not sure kind of like what to do next. What are some like
Hmm.
good practical, like three things maybe that you think a woman could do today to kind of get unstuck, to really kind of try to find her way?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say, first, you got to slow down and you got to really take the time to think. Think about, what is it that you want out of your life? What are the things that light you up? Like, learn more about yourself. Whether that's, I love me a personality test. I love the Myers-Briggs. I love the Enneagram. I love to know kind of a little bit more about myself. What drives me? What motivates me? What am I really after? And then can kind of narrow down. So I would say the first thing you want to do, learn about yourself. The second, like, I think you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to realize, like, okay, this is going to feel weird, this is going to feel out of character for me. Whether it's you're meeting with some new community, it's like you're putting yourself out there. You've got to be able to risk kind of the failure or rejection a little bit. And I feel like at this point in our lives, I am caring less and less about failure and rejection. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to do something that I know is going to, like, I'm going to fall flat on my face, but you're just willing to get uncomfortable. So, like, learn about yourself, get uncomfortable. And then the third, I would say, let me think for a second on that. When you're feeling stuck, I would say reach out to your community, reach out to the people that you know, reach out to the people you love, reach out to the people you follow, the people you admire. See the things about their lives or their experiences that you think, oh, that could be really great. I mean, I definitely am all about having individuality and, like, not saying, oh, I'm just going to follow her path, but it's like, what is it about, what Roxy does that people are really enjoying? Is it that she's connecting with people online? Is it that she's, trained in this way? Or is it that she's, doing a animal rescue? Like, what is it about this person's experience that seems really cool? And kind of think about, oh, what might be really good about that? What might ring true and feel true to my personality? And what maybe only sounds nice in theory, but not in practice. So I think those three things, and then you'll find your path a little bit more. I feel like, okay, that gives you a start, and then you can start to see, all right, these are the options. These are the places that I can go with that.
Absolutely. Those are great tips, really great tips. And I love the personality test because I remember feeling so lost after I graduated college. I knew I wanted to do something in media. I had worked in like entertainment marketing. I had like done the cattle calls of like going on auditions. And I was feeling lost. And I did take one of those. I don't know if it was the Briggs one, but I took one of those tests and it kind of lets what your proclivities are and like what your skill set is and like what kind of profession. And you know what the two professions were that they said I should do?
What?
Either a librarian or a surgeon.
Are you kidding
Isn't it?
me?
That's like
Wow.
very opposite two things.
How did those have any overlap? Like, if you think of the Venn diagram of librarian and a surgeon,
Right.
it's like it's there. I'm confused by that
Is
one, but hey, those would both be very cool.
Totally. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so interesting." I'm like, I guess because they test you on numbers and like remembering numbers and things like that. So I think for that reason they said librarian. And then the recall for the numbers, but then I think for the surgeon it was something to do with like fine motor skills and like I guess interest in science. I don't know. It was crazy though. I was like, "Wow." I mean, those are both amazing professions, but I don't really want to do either one.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember what mine said. I mean, I studied social work. I wanted to be a therapist. By the time I finished my undergrad, I realized, I'm just done with school. I'm schooled out. And then, I ended up working with kids in foster care. And that was super rewarding in a lot of ways. But by the end, I think, especially during this time, I had two of my children by the end of it. And I realized, like, I just don't have the patience for, bless the people who have addictions and who have grown up, in horrible situations, but the adults that really are doing, dangerous things and aren't able to be a safe parent and all of that. By the end, I was a little bit jaded and I was just like, you know what? I do not have the empathy that I once had, which if you think of that industry, anything kind of social work and anything, there's such a high burnout rate. And so by the time I finished, it was time. It was a good stop point. But then after that, I stayed home for a long time and then just did kind of little part-time things. But yeah, personality tests, find out the way your brain works, like learn about yourself, do that personal inventory.
That's such a good point. Since you've been doing the show, like, what has been your most vulnerable moment? Like, what has been the moment where you were like, "Oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm putting this out there, but I'm putting it out there."
I would say I'm a person who I like to look on the bright side, and I don't like to give much attention to like past pain, past things that have, really been hard for me. And so I feel like even like what last week or the week before on my podcast, I talked about, I was with my sister who she is truly my security blanket. If you look through my episodes, she's on like half of them because we just like to talk. So we talked about friendship breakups, and she was talking about, my sister, she went through a divorce, and she had a friendship breakup with her best friend all in a couple years. But I talked about my most painful friend experience. And it sounds silly to be, this happened when I was 16. And it feels crazy that it's like, oh, this thing happened when I was 16. Why does it affect me now? But feeling like I had my group of friends. So in high school, I had this group of girlfriends. There was 4 of them. They went on a secret trip without me. And it was like, don't tell Chrissy. And they went on a secret trip. There was no social media, there was no digital footprint, but I later found out, and it totally rocked the foundation of like, are these really my friends? These people that I trusted, the people that I thought were my circle, are they not my circle? Like, it really rocked the foundation. And so that's something that, like, I mean, even though it was so long ago, like bringing it up still, obviously I need some therapy for it because it's still, I feel it, but like revealing something like that. And it's like, I mean, why it's crazy the things that affect you, but I'm sure as the episodes go on, I mean, there will be a lot of vulnerability because as a creator, as a podcaster, I mean, I can't just be, the person in the background who just asks the questions and doesn't give anything back. So I'm sure there are going to be times where it's like, guess what? I've been married for 20 years and there have been some tough times, and this is a little bit why, or, these are the tough parenting moments or the times where I realize, who am I? What am I wanting to do with my life? Feeling that, realizing that I'm a work in progress and that there's a lot of confusion. And I feel like, we think about our lives and you think of like, I kind of liken it to a bowling alley with the bumpers up. And it's like, okay, we are the ball and we're bumping along the bumpers. And that's just part of life. And, if we went straight and hit a strike, like that's so unrealistic, and realize that like hitting the bumpers is part of life. And, I feel like, not that I want to be, definitely, I don't want to be cynical, but it's like there's probably some really hard times in my life that are yet to come. There's probably going to be really hard times in my marriage. My kids are getting older. As they get independent, are they going to make stupid choices that have me like, I have to like lay down and like process? I'm sure. My parents, I'm still lucky enough to have both my parents and they're healthy, but guess what? In the next 20 years, things will change. So it's like, I'm sure that there are going to be some really challenging things. And I feel like as we go through this podcasting space and as we are sharing with other people, the thing that I love is that we have this community as well. I'm building this little brand new baby community. You have this beautiful community online that if you can say, hey guys, this is what's going on with me. Who else has been through that? Chances are there's somebody who can say, hey, Roxy, I've been there. This is what helped me, and realizing, gosh, when we get vulnerable, that's when it gets real. And that's when people relate. Nobody wants to hear from somebody who says, my life has been perfect and I have all the answers. No, it's like we need the messy.
Yes.
We need that. We need the real. And it's like, yes, sometimes when you make crazy decisions, like, you're going to get some crazy outcomes. But like, no matter what, like nobody gets out of this life unscathed. And what really makes a difference is the community and having people that you can lean on, having people that you can relate to. And also, you don't know if your words, not that I think that I, am this pinnacle of like, pillar of inspiration, but guess what? If I can help somebody feel less alone through this journey, like that's a win.
It's a huge one, and it's such a like an amazing help and service to other women to really put yourself out there like that. And I think for me, vulnerability has not been easy, so it's always been hard for me to like, you know, fully put myself out there like that. But the more I do, like
Mhm.
you're saying, it is so rewarding, because there is so much shared experience, particularly in this community and in midlife. And it's like so many of us are going through a lot of the same things, or maybe not exactly
Mhm.
the same, but like similar, and it's like dealing with aging parents, kids, yourself, feeling your self-worth. And that's like another thing too. I think knowing your self-worth, as hard as that can be at times,
Mhm.
really gives you the tools to be able to deal with what you can't control in the outside world. It's like all the shit that comes down the pipeline, if you have at least a strong foundation, you know who you are,
Mhm.
you feel your self-worth, that like people can't, they can try to knock you down. And I'm not saying they're not going to try to knock you down, but at least if you are solid with yourself and solid with the close, knit group of people around you, I think that makes so much of a difference. Don't you? Like it helps so much.
Truly. And it's like, having the mentality of like hurt people, the internet trolls, it's because they're desperately unhappy and whatever. And something that you said triggered them. And so realizing it's like, I'm I don't need to listen to what this nameless, faceless, anonymous account says because, it means nothing. And I have no problem hitting block. I've had a couple insults hurled my way already. And it's like, I can like laugh about it and I can screenshot it and text my friends. And we're all like, oh, that person's crazy or that person's an idiot or, whatever. Goodbye. So, I feel like, gosh, so much vulnerability, but like it's all for good. It really is.
It's all for good. And I'm so glad you brought up the topic of friendship breakups and like remembering those memories, because my daughter is now in sixth grade. And that for me was such
Okay.
a big year for friendships. And it's funny how you don't forget when things like this happen in your past. I remember,
Oh.
yeah, I remember like it was yesterday, like being dumped by my group of friends, the girl I thought that I was closest to in this group. And I still remember it in the locker room at the gym. And she was there with a few of the other girls and she just said, I don't want to be your friends anymore. And like, that was it. And I just remember, not having the language to really express myself. And I felt probably not, I was too embarrassed to express myself to my other friends and my
Mhm.
mom. So I just kind of carried that my whole growing up, carried it throughout my life. And I just remember sobbing in that gym and just being like, oh my God, it's, it was so sad, and it just things like that, like not being able to really talk to anybody, which I hope, is definitely changing for our girls and our kids. But
Mhm.
those things get like etched in your brain. Like you can't forget
Oh, it
it.
leaves a mark on you forever. It leaves a mark and it's you kind of hate it a little bit, but it's like, "Oh my goodness, these are the things that made me me." And what I hope is like, "Okay, I hate that I had to go through this horrible thing, but it's, these are the things that I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be more inclusive. I'm going to be very, very aware. So I'm never a cruel friend." And so we can teach our girls like this is how this is how you approach friendship. This is mean girl behavior. This is, putting a name to it because yeah, there are a lot of people who just, they're traumatized by this. And really, I mean, recently I've had 2 episodes kind of dealing with friendship breakups and the response has been I've had so many people respond. That is hit a nerve talking about female friendship, whether it's female friendship in your 40s or, all throughout. It's like everybody has a story with that. That is something that is so relatable of, you've had a friend, you've also had a disappointment, you've had a heartbreak, a friend heartbreak. And I mean, my sister, she brought up, I think friendship, that's like our first heartbreak.
Yes.
Before we have a romantic heartbreak, it's those friends. And, I've been blessed to have so many wonderful friends, just like you. You've got your USC friends, you've got these soul sisters who have been everything, but like you've had those experiences that were traumatic, that were heartbreaking, that you thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to trust somebody again?
Yes, how am I gonna trust somebody again? And I think, like you're saying, it's not talked about enough. Like, we need to talk about this because when friendships change, it's so traumatic. Like, and even like now as an adult, like starting in our 40s, of our adult friendship group, there were two women that kind of broke apart. And although I wasn't one of them, we're still in a close friend group, and the rest of us are still getting affected by it because we love both of
Mhm.
them, equally. And it's kind of like, well, you want to be friends with both of them. So it's not, and it makes it hard for the people around you too.
Roxy, I am in that exact same situation in my life, real time, right now, where big group of friends, two of them have decided, the friendship is not good for them. They're not friends. I love both of them dearly. These women are wonderful, but it makes it really tricky because, okay, we do group things and it's like, I hang out with them individually, but that as groups, it's like we have these two separate little hangs and it's really really hard, and it's like, okay, it's not about me, it's like they're going through a hard time too, but like it's tricky. It is tricky when friend groups kind of have those breaks and cracks within them, and then they're like these bifurcated situations.
And it's almost like a divorce because you're like, who do I go? Who do you go with? And it's
Yes.
right. And you want to go with both of them. You don't want to lose either one of them. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a real tricky situation.
it's really tricky, right? But I feel like now with, maybe it is partly hormonal, there's, changes and, whatever it is, day-to-day life, that I feel like this becomes more of a topic in this time frame.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's like, okay, we went through our teenage years and, all of that, and our period hormones and all of that puberty, and that was tricky enough with friendships. Now we're older and we should know better in a lot of relational ways, to not be catty, to not be judgy, to not be, gossipy. But now we've got all these perimenopause and menopause hormones where it's like we are afraid, we are not as even keeled as we once were. And so, realizing and giving your friends grace and hoping that that kind of comes in return of like, yeah, sorry, I was a little bit nutty the other day. I'm feeling, I'm feeling better.
Right.
And realizing that it's like, okay, like just blame the blame the
Exactly.
Perry on
Perry Perry
everything.
is always the root of the problem. You know?
Ah, she's such a jerk.
She really is. I will say, because my daughter's entering 6th grade now, she's going to a different school. Her going into like the middle school world is triggering to me because I worry so much for her because I know how difficult those years are, and it's like one of those things where, hormones are raging and, friendships are changing and the dynamics, and they're trying to figure out who they are. They're letting go of like childhood in some ways, and really you too as a parent, they're like letting us go, and the friends become so much more important to them. So I'm like, I know there's going to be heartbreak and trials and tribulations for her and everything, but I just get so I think it's just because of what I've gone through too. It's like it can be really triggering.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you've been through all of these things and you remember it's like when your daughter comes home crying because, this friend, it's like history is going to repeat itself. There are going to be times where, your daughter's friend that she's been her friend forever and now she's being mean to her. And it's like, your mama bear comes out and you just want to be like, I'm going to
Yeah.
kill this kid, this little monster. And you want to intervene. You want to intervene and be like texting the other girl's mom and be like, what's going on? But it's like, oh, you realize you have got to be hands off and you have got to give them, you can give your advice, but then you have to let them figure it out. And that's so hard.
What is your advice for that? Like, do you take a step back and let your daughter kind of just figure out, within the friend group what's happening? Or do you step in as a parent?
It's like since she's 8, she hasn't had too much, but she's had a little bit of I really want to kind of tread lightly of saying like, oh, I will talk to her and I'll tell her just, when we're laying down for bed or whatever, when she's more prone to listening, I'll just a little bit say, oh, this was what my life was like when I was 8. And these were what my friends are like. And just kind of like opening that dialogue so she remembers, hey, mom was once this age before. Mom's been through it. She's not completely on a different planet. And there have been times where she has opened up that, oh, so and so, just like the little relational aggression and the things that people have said and, really trying to open up that dialogue. But yeah, it's like, it's so hard because when your kids are little, you can solve these problems. It's like, oh, they broke this toy, oh, whatever, or they fell and they scraped their knee. Like those are easy problems to solve. But once they start getting older, it is hard. And it's so hard to sit on the sidelines and just realize they've got to experience this for themselves, even though you're just heartbroken and you're going to be there and you're going to be there and like ready to, dry the tears and ready to just to be that listening ear and realize like, I know, honey, it's horrible.
Oh, I
We're going to get through
know.
it. And not that it makes it better to be like, you will find your people, but it gets better. It gets
Yeah,
better.
it's just so hard to not be the problem solver, to like take that hat off and then become the listener
Hmm.
or like the vulnerability sharer. It's like
Hmm.
that's where, because you just want to solve it and make it go away. But I guess that's not the course of life.
I know it's like if you just sweep in and solve the problems, what does that teach them other than, it's like you want them to be able to have the independence because guess what? Their problems are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not going to be just, this friend said I'm not her friend anymore. It's going to be these bigger, more complex things. And so realizing in the perspective, like, they have to be able to, they have to solve these problems themselves. And yes, I'll be here for advice, but I cannot fix this for you.
So, how do you deal with fear, particularly as you started this amazing new podcast and you're really putting yourself out there, which I think is so resonating, with people. So, congratulations on that. But
Thank you.
how do you deal with the fear, like of just, all the things that come with that?
All the things, I mean, I feel like I've had to almost it's almost like jumping into a pool. Like if I was going to wait for the right time and the right place and the perfect time to start this podcast adventure, or I mean, really, if you want to expand any adventure, it's like there's never going to be a right time. There's never going to be, a flashing sign that's like, here you are, here, go for it. I feel like first I've just had to like absolutely take a leap of faith of just like, okay, here we go. And then also realize like, guess what? Like you said, what you can be like the juiciest, most delicious peach, somebody's still going to hate peaches. Like, I feel like I know myself enough that realizing there's going to be people who are not into it. There are going to be people who roll their eyes or who mute me on Instagram or who mute me, whatever. And it's like, that's fine. I don't have to be for everybody. I don't need every 40-year-old woman in the world, 40-year-old and beyond, to listen and enjoy my words and my perspective and realizing like it's okay, I'm not for everybody. I feel like it'll probably, as growth goes, I'm sure there will be some times where my confidence is rocked. I'm sure there have been times, with you and your career and with your podcast and your platform where your confidence has been rocked, but it's like there's never going to be a perfect time. Like I said earlier, the time's going to pass anyway. And I do not want to live a life of regret of thinking, oh, I should have done this. It would have been a perfect time to do this. Because I still think like, oh man, if I would have started some type of an influencing platform, in 2010 when Instagram was baby Instagram, whatever, I could have been one of those who was, shaped the internet, rolling in the dough, whatever. Like I have a friend who she created a cooking blog way at the very beginning of Pinterest and it did amazing and exploded. And she worked and worked and worked and worked. And, there are some times where I was like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that. But like, I truly need to be like, I need to stop with the should have dones and just realize there's never going to be a great time. It's always going to be scary. Like, just friggin' go for it.
Yes, totally. There's never a right time, like you're saying. It's the right time is now.
Yeah, the right time is now.
You had so many amazing guests already on your show, and you've talked about all these fascinating topics. Was there a story that has resonated with you so far, so much as to really kind of change the way you think?
Well, first, I mean, I love this. I love that I'm having an opportunity to talk to these women who, are in their 40s and beyond and have all these different lived experiences. The one conversation that has really stuck with me, it's my one of my good friends, Sarah, and she's 44 years old and she has done a full life pivot and she joined the police academy. So she
Wow.
has a mother of five. She's raising her children. She decided, I want to do this. And so her experience is so interesting. I love talking to her. But when we're talking about, I'm, I should have done this or I should have done that. I feel behind in life. I think for a long time, that's something that I kind of struggled with. And she's like, whose race are you running? Who is behind you? It is your race. You do not need to look at this person or that person. Like the only person you're racing is you. And so that's something that I really love because it's like, just stopping the comparison game because it's not necessarily, oh, she has this, I want this, but it's like just feeling like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. I should have done this a long time ago and realizing no, now is the right time for whatever you want to do. Um, I really have loved that. Whose race am I running? No, but it's my race.
That resonates so much. I love that. Like, you are not running a race against anybody else but yourself. Like, there is no timeline,
Yeah.
Throw the timeline out, right?
Yes. throw the timeline out, throw whatever expectations you have. If you think, oh, this person achieved this amount of success at this age and I'm nowhere near that, like throw it out,
Yeah.
because truly there is no limit to when you can have success and what success has to look like, because what success looks like to me is different than what it looks like to you, different what it looks like to my neighbor, different what it looks like to anybody. And so thinking that there's only one way to do this right and to succeed is just so limiting. So I feel like there's, again, what we said before, there's room for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everybody has their own unique gift, their own unique voice, and you can't duplicate that. So everybody, there's room for the table for everybody.
Yes. And so not to feel so, also feel threatened by another woman's success. I feel like, gosh, some women's success, it's like it raises the tides for everybody. And so seeing somebody that is having massive wins, massive success, it's like, that's so great. I never want to be the person who, is picking somebody apart and saying like, oh, I'm jealous. Like, I know there's always like the little green-eyed monster. There's always a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy that pops in, but like, do not feed that, because that just, who does that serve? Absolutely nobody. Like, celebrate your friends' wins, cheer them on, be that person who is always the support, always willing to, send the nice text, to share, to say, like, to really like pump these women up, because what does it hurt? Like, it ends up coming around to you. If you're the one who's always cheering other people on, when you need that encouragement, it's going to come around to you too.
We should be rooting for each other. And like another woman's win is a win for all of us because that only advances collectively the group, And it's like, I think that too, like you're saying the competitive, maybe like, feeling threatened, like we got to let go of that. I mean, it's hard. I know it's hard because it is natural to look around and see, somebody else doing something maybe that you wanted to do or that you don't feel like you're in the same place as them. But I think that will serve us so much more collectively as a group of women is letting go of being threatened or feeling competitive because again, we are our own people. So we are our only voice and there is no competition except with ourselves, right? I mean, truly,
Absolutely.
truly.
Absolutely. And it's like, you think of the things that you would say, the things that you say to, yourself. I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. Like, the words that you would want to, the things you would say to your friends, the way that you would encourage your friends, kind of turning it back around, the way that you would encourage your friends and be like, you're doing amazing, I'm so proud of you, you're doing these great things. It's like, turn that back around on you as well, to say, like, give yourself the positive self-talk. You're doing amazing. You're doing something, you are growing in ways, you're learning in ways, you're evolving in ways. Like, pump yourself up. Obviously, it's like you want to put all the goodness out in the world, but also bring it back to yourself. And do not forget to congratulate yourself for the wins and to recognize the growth that is within you and the ways that you've handled situations. And, I think that there's a lot that we just need to just give more positivity, whether it's to everyone out there or back to yourself.
100%. We should be, we do, so many of us do affirmations for our daughters, going to
Mhm.
bed at night and for our kids in general, doing these affirmations. And yet it's so hard to do them for ourselves. And I think we have to be able to look in a mirror, stare at ourselves and say, you know what? You're fucking awesome. You are smart. You are
Yes.
intelligent. You are a go getter. You are creating something, whatever the affirmations are. You're strong. You're brave. Like all these things. It's so important that we have the same self talk like that. And even to write it down, like write that down on a piece of paper. If you don't want to say it to yourself in a mirror, write it down on a piece of paper. Stick that sucker up on your wall and look at it and just really take that in because everybody has a gift. There is something special about everybody. So you just have to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. And I feel like being at this age and stage, this is the time where it's like, bet on yourself.
Yes.
Bet on yourself. Like, let's do this. Let's do the thing. Try the new thing. Learn the new hobby. Put yourself out there, whatever it is, because yeah, there's so much time, and like, you can develop into this even more amazing person if you just have, I would say, just take that leap.
Take that leap of faith. So, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
All right. I would, again, I would say stop looking at what other people are doing. Stop comparing your journey to other people. I feel like that's something that really I did get too much. I got caught too much up in, oh, this person's doing this person's doing this big thing, this person's doing that big thing, and feeling really affected by that, feeling a little bit like, oh, I missed the boat, or what am I doing wrong? And I feel like telling myself, like, just focus on yourself, like stay in your lane, stop looking at this person's race or that person's race, because truly it's your own race that matters. And I think if I would have listened to that a little bit, that would have served me really, really well. But I'm glad I'm learning that lesson now at this age rather than never.
Yes, it's never too late. It is never too late to start to learn. I mean, we learn lessons every day. I mean, people who are 95 years old are learning lessons every day. So it's never too late to
Truly.
learn, right? Um, and how are you living iconically right now?
How am I living iconically? I feel like truly putting myself out there and starting a podcast, putting myself out there in a way that I never have. Like, this has been extremely empowering, extremely exciting. This has been a wonderful, wonderful exercise in, like, what am I able to do and connecting with people. I feel like, yeah, starting this podcast, starting Found at 40 really has been an iconic move for me.
Yes, so iconic. It's such a great show. Please tell our audience where they can find you.
Thank you. So, Found at 40, I'm available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. And then on Instagram, I'm Found at 40 Podcast. 40 with a 40.
Perfect. And what a great name for a show. It brings up all the feelings and all the things. Um, so yeah, everyone go check out her show, go check out her social media. You'll glean so much amazing knowledge and information. Because she is great. So definitely check her out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you've been waiting for a sign to shake things up, this might be it. Chrissy is living proof that midlife isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. You can follow her journey and hear even more powerful stories on her podcast, Found at 40. And if this episode gave you something to think about or made you feel seen, please share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to follow the Iconic Midlife on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Rate, comment, and let us know what resonated with you most. Your support helps other women find this space too.